Hey guys, what's up? Happy Hump Day. Today we are going to do something a little bit fun. We are going to do my Bird Dog top 20 favorite wrestlers of all time. Yeah, it's the first time I'm going to do anything wrestling oriented. Growing up, I was a big wrestling fan. Some of you may agree with that. Some of you may think I am a bit of a loser. I don't care. I liked wrestling when I was growing up. So that is what we are going to talk about today. We are going to go through my top 20 favorite wrestlers of all time. Okay, so this should be something fun. Change it up a little bit from the baseball talk that we've been doing. So, first, we're going to go through the honorary mentions. 5 honorary mentions that just missed the top 20. The first honorary member is going to be Rob Van Dam. The whole fucking show. One of my favorite wrestlers growing up. High flyer. Sweet little outfits that he used to wear. Yep, I know what that sounds like. I get it. But Rob Van Dam, great wrestler. Rowdy Piper. Just outside the top 20. The Hot Scott. You know what? He probably could have made my top 20. The guy just didn't have a good finishing move. The sleeper, come on, grow up, bud. Jake the Snake Roberts. He probably could have made my top 20 as well, but I hate snakes. So he didn't make it. But he was still badass. Little messed up outside of the ring, but he was still pretty sweet when I was growing up. Randy Orton is another one of my honorable mentions. The Viper, Randy Orton. I liked him in his first 5 years with the company. Other than that, he really hasn't changed his character, so he's pretty stale. That really hampered his ability to get in the top 20. And another one that just missed the top 20, the last one, John Cena. You can't see me. You can't see the top 20 because your character is really stupid now. You wear stupid jorts with the same dumb, colorful t-shirts every single week with stupid wristbands. What are you, 6? Grow up, Peter Pan. He was cool when he first came out. That's when I liked him. He was, he used to rap battle everyone. He used to wear a cool chain, some throwback football and basketball jerseys, and then he sold out and became a kiss ass, and that's why he's not in my top 20. So let's get into the top 20. Once again, these are my opinions, nobody else's. This is no way about technical, how good they were as a wrestler, how big they were as a wrestler. This is just how much I actually liked them. Okay, so number 20, Raven. Yeah, off the board, okay, Raven, but this is WCW and ECW Raven, that WWE Raven that they came out with around WrestleMania 17 was gross, so he doesn't actually count, but ECW, WCW Raven, had the Ravens flock in WCW, pretty sick, cool shirts ripped off, he had the jorts, but he did it the right way, they were cut, he was pretty badass, leader of a cult-like faction called the Ravens Flock. I was a big fan of Raven when I was growing up. So he gets the number 20 slot. Number 19, Jeff Hardy, high flyer, Swanton Bomb. Didn't like him so much when he was with his brother Matt and the Hardy Boys, but once he became a singles competitor, definitely flew up the list for me. He was one of my favorite high flyers to this day. Number 18. This is pretty far down on my list, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of flack from this from wrestling fans because they're pretty hardcore. Triple H. Basically because Triple H has been burying people for the last 10 years. That's why he's so low on my list. Triple H in the Attitude Era was pretty sick, was in DX with Shawn Michaels. That was awesome. After that, when he married Stephanie McMahon, and then he won his first title with a reborn DX, that was pretty sick. After that, I really had no use for him. Number 17, the Dead Man, The Undertaker. Yeah, he is far down my list because I'm not a big fan of big men. I'm not a fan of the tall wrestlers. I'm not a fan of the guys that are more powerful. I like the high flyers, as you can probably tell by my list so far. So Undertaker, you're cool gimmick, cool music. Yeah, your eyes roll back in your head, whatever. That's sweet. You're not in my top 10. Sorry, bud. Number 16, the Olympic hero, Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is one of my favorites of all time. Unfortunately, there was a huge time gap from the last time he was in the company until he just came back a year ago. I haven't watched him since he came back because I don't watch wrestling anymore, and I haven't in like 5 years. But Kurt Angle, growing up, was one of my favorites. Funny on the mic, great in the ring, great technical wrestler. So he's in there. Number 15, Y2J, Chris Jericho. This is Chris Jericho, WCW, in his first stint in WWF. WWE, whatever the hell you want to call it. The new Jericho, he's stupid. He came back wearing underpants. I don't know what's going on with that. Stupid code breaker. Where's the walls of Jericho? This guy's garbage now. He's old and he's washed up. But he was cool, so he gets number 15 on my slot. Number 14, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. He probably would have been higher on my list, but he took off to WCW too quick for my liking. I wish he would have stuck around a little bit longer. He could have really done some good things towards the middle to late 90s, but he left, so he doesn't make it that high in my list. Number 13, Mr. Perfect. Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, was one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. I loved the sports gimmick, how he was perfect at everything. I loved his vignettes. I loved his finishing move. I loved his managers, the coach, Bobby the Brain Heenan. Mr. Perfect, best theme music in the game, my friends. Number 12, Diesel / Kevin Nash. He's this high basically because of the NWO. When he was Diesel, he was okay, his character was kind of stupid. But then he came to WCW, started the NWO with Scott Hall and Hulk Hogan. So that was pretty sick. That's why he's so high on my list. Right next to him, right in front of him actually, is number 11, Razor Ramon / Scott Hall. He was the first to defect to WCW and start the NWO. Pretty badass, one of the best wrestlers I've ever seen when I was growing up. Unfortunately, he's a booze hound. Actually, it kind of makes him a little bit cooler. He should probably be higher on my list because he likes to party so much. Number 10, Daniel Bryan, the Yes Man, the goat face. Daniel Bryan, probably the last wrestler I liked before I stopped watching wrestling. So that's probably why he's so fresh in my brain. That's probably why he's so high. Not necessarily because of how good he is. I do think he's a funny guy. He had a cool beard, cool hair. So I did like him quite a bit back in the day. Number 9, Canadian, Edge. Edge was pretty sick once he ditched the Brood gimmick and kind of went on his own after Christian. He had the whole Lita and Matt Hardy thing going on. That was pretty sick. Some sweet battles with Mick Foley. Edge really came into his own. Thought he was one of the best wrestlers. Retired way too early. That's probably about when I stopped watching wrestling, is when Edge retired. So definitely one of my favorites. Doesn't hurt that he's from Toronto as well. Number 8, Ric Flair. Ric Flair. I didn't get to see Ric Flair in his prime. I got to see Ric Flair in WCW. I got to see Ric Flair a little bit in WWF in the early 90s for about a year when he was there. And then I kind of got a washed up version of Ric Flair throughout the rest of my life. So he probably should be higher. He's probably higher than a lot of other people's lists, but because I didn't get to see him in his prime, he's not any higher than number 8. Number 7, going back to Canada once again, Bret the Hitman Hart. He probably should be higher on my list, but he's not because he feuded with Shawn Michaels so much. You'll know why I don't like him as much, because he feuded with Shawn Michaels later on when I get to my higher numbers. But Bret Hart was probably one of the best wrestlers. He had some of the best matches I've ever seen. He was very entertaining to me, and I enjoyed watching when I was growing up, and he had pretty sick music when he was in the Hart Foundation. Number 6, the Ultimate Warrior. Not for his wrestling skills whatsoever, more so on a platonic entertainment factor of how stupid he actually was. His promos were so mind-bogglingly dumb, didn't make any sense. That's why I kind of loved him. He wore stupid face paint. He wore tassels from his boots and his biceps. The guy looked like a complete clown, but that was his character. He pulled it off well. He actually made his real life. He changed his name to Warrior. What the hell kind of shit is that? What a weirdo. But anyways, he was a cool character. I'll give him number 6 on my list. Number 5, The Rock. But The Rock from 1997 to about 2000, and then I couldn't stand any more of him. He was cool when he was a bad guy. He was cool a little bit when he turned to be a good guy. Then after that, it was the same crap every week. So that's probably why he's not as high on my list as he is on other people. Number 4, the Hulkster, Hulkamaniac. Hulk Hogan, the real American. He's probably higher on a lot of other people's lists. He only makes it to number 4 for me just because his overall ability to wrestle is far worse than the 3 guys that are in front of him. I probably liked all of them equally when I was growing up at a certain point, but unfortunately he was the worst wrestler out of the group, so he's number 4. When I was growing up though, when I was about 3 to 10, everything was Hulk Hogan. He was life at that point. Number 3, CM Punk. Underrated wrestler for most of his career, but one of my favorites when he was wrestling in Ring of Honor and then finally came to WWE. Was buried a little bit in the ECW brand. When he finally broke out, he broke out big. Had some ridiculous matches against Jeff Hardy. Then, of course, we had the pipe bomb that blew the internet up when he went rogue. Then he quit the company, came back and won the belt. Then he left the company. And then he came back, and everything was crazy. And then he quit because he didn't want a job. Just a outspoken guy, great wrestler, great character, great music. Everything is a thumbs up for CM Punk. Number 2, Stone Cold Steve Austin, the baddest son of a bitch I've ever seen in the ring. That guy growing up, he came up during a time where he didn't have a whole lot of hot opponents to fight. He was fighting The Undertaker all the time. He was fighting Kane. He was fighting Dude Love. What the fuck is a Dude Love? But then he had some great battles against The Rock, against Shawn Michaels, against Kurt Angle. So he came out in a time where the talent around him wasn't as great, but he was the best. He was the catalyst. He took that company from being second to WCW and took them over the top through the Attitude Era. Stone Cold Steve Austin, probably one of the best entertainers in the ring and outside the ring I've ever seen. That brings us to number 1, the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, my favorite wrestler of all time, the most charismatic wrestler, Mr. WrestleMania, Mr. Everything, the best on the mic, the best on the ring, in the ring. When he was 20, he was the best. When he was 45, he was the best. I bet you if he went in the ring right now, he'd still be the best. He's the best entertainer I've ever seen, the best moveset I've ever seen, the best theme music in the league. Shawn Michaels was just my best, okay? So, guys, put together your top 20, your top 10 list. Comment below. Comment on the Facebook post I'm going to put out later, on the Instagram post I'm going to put out later. Let me know what your top 20 wrestlers would be. For yourself. Let me see those lists. Let me see what I have to compare to. Make sure you go to my YouTube page, Bird Dog. Subscribe right away, guys. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Everything will be in the description of this video. So please come check me out on all of those social media outlets. Other than that, that's all I got to say today, guys. Bird Dog gone.